I'm Matt Scott. I work for a company in New Zealand called Brush Technology. It's a small Internet of Things product development consultancy that's been developing product ideas since before the term Internet of Things was even a thing, about 2006. So we've got a really diverse team of about 8 people, and this team do from electrical engineering, electronics engineering, printed circuit board design, firmware, right through to full stack cloud and web development. And yeah, we kind of specialize in that space between the hardware and the software. So we also make a product ourselves in-house. Most of the work we do is for other people. We make one product in-house called Hivemind, which is a satellite beehive monitoring solution so that beekeepers and pollinators of crops, people who grow food, can put monitoring devices on their beehives in really remote locations and gain insights from the data that helps improve their productivity. So yeah, my personal journey is probably not your stereotypical IoT developer one. I grew up, I love music. I played a lot of different instruments, and I got really interested in, we had a family electric organ, and I don't know if you know the kind of thing that you can program the thing in layers so that it plays itself. Okay. I used to spend a lot of time programming this thing. I worked out if I had 2 cassette decks, I could record myself on one and then on the other and play all different instruments and layer up all these different sounds that ultimately sounded terrible. So when I was 14, I enrolled in the local polytechnic here. They ran a night school class at our town's recording studio. And yeah, that led to 5 years of tertiary study. I ended up with a master's in sound recording and design when I was 23. I wrote my master's thesis on ringtones. So I became the New Zealand expert on how to program cell phone ringtones for the 2 months or so that cell phone ringtones were a thing. But it also led me to other strange places like programming whiteware beats. I did other things too. I worked in recording studios for 18 years. I mostly made original soundtracks, TV ads, doing music programming. And yeah, in 2016, I ended up at the World Business Forum in Sydney, which is basically a conference of, they handpick all these amazing professors from business schools all around the world and just have a cram 1 week of presenting all these up and coming ideas. And there was a real theme about this coming tech revolution. I got really excited about it and wanted to be involved. The World Business Forum was sponsored by an MBA program, a Masters of Business Administration. So in between each speaker, they had like these ads about doing an MBA. And yeah, I came back and enrolled in our local university to do an MBA myself. The first class of the MBA, I don't know, I was expecting to learn finance or economics or numbers or something, but the first class was called Leading Ourselves. And I asked some questions like, who are you? What is your calling? What do you want to achieve? Which, yeah, sort of drew out that I wanted to get into tech. So 2 weeks into my MBA, I quit my old career of 18 years and plunged headfirst into, I got a job working on New Zealand's first ever digital census. I helped the team that developed the online collection platform for that. I overheard a corridor conversation after a meeting one day about this guy who had a crazy idea to teach digital technologies to primary school children using a vegetable garden. So I latched onto that and I took that and ran with it. I took it from being a crazy idea to delivering that into 68 schools throughout New Zealand. And yeah, I love working in tech. It's a lot more creative than I ever would have expected. It's a very similar skill set. Organizing a bunch of developers and making an Internet of Things solution is the exact same thing as organizing a bunch of musicians to make an album. It's a lot of crossover. So yeah, I'd really reiterate to anyone who's thinking about getting involved that writing code is just a tool in a toolbox, and everyone uses the tools differently. So yeah, it's a creative thing too.
Yeah, and very well said. I think you know, there's so many things that you can create. It's a recipe. You know, you bring the different. Yeah. You know, an electronic engineer, mechanical engineer, software, you know, you get you know, somebody who's thinking a bit differently coming in, and all of a sudden what you can create can be quite beautiful.
Yeah, we're quite unique here, I think, in that none of our staff learnt like computer science or software engineering. Everyone's come from a different walk of life, and I do think that diversity of thought helps us with our processes. Would be very easy if everyone had done the same computer science course at the same university, just everyone to fall in the same way of thinking. I think, yeah, that can be dangerous.
Okay, so before we go too much into detail about the solutions that you have and the consultancy and things, let's take a step back and just ask you to describe, from your point of view and your perspective, just what the Internet of Things means to you.
Sure. So for me, it's less about the technology and it's more about the outcomes. So I think Internet of Things is more about what it means for humans. Why are we doing this? What's the problem that we're solving here? How is this useful? It is easy to get excited about electronics and tech. I myself, like one, have a bookshelf at home with all these latest cool little tiny microcontrollers that keep coming out. But they're all sitting there gathering dust, not doing anything. And for me, it's more about how we use that tech to do something meaningful, make an impact, improve people's lives. Otherwise, what's the point, right? I think the word technology doesn't have to mean electronic or digital. Technology can be something simple like a spoon or a pencil. And yeah, I think of technology as a process that you go through to arrive at the right solution, build the right thing. And ultimately, you're solving problems for humans and making sure that we're solving meaningful problems.
Nice, nice. And then if we talk then about some of the complexities, so something like you've done the product development, you've got now your own product, which is kind of taking the next step along the value chain, and you're now going and providing that as a service to farmers. Just again, from your perspective, you know, there's the part that you do, but then you're also part of a bigger ecosystem in order to deliver these services. How would you describe the ecosystem and how you work within that today in order for you to be able to deliver an IoT solution?
Yeah, I think the very notion of Internet of Things implies that there's a bunch of different components that all need to be able to work together and share information. I don't know what the ecosystem's like internationally, but I think we're lucky that here in New Zealand, our Internet of Things developer community see the bigger picture and the role that each of us play in working together. So it's good to see the ecosystem emerging in a way that players are willing to collaborate with one another to achieve something bigger than themselves. When you work in tech, it's easy to forget that not all other industries take this collaborative approach. I guess the internet itself was about sharing information and open source, and it's easy to forget that there are still some industries that are very competitive and siloed. Yeah, I've got behind me here, this is Lake Huron, one of my favorite fishing spots. But don't tell anyone. It tells me when I'm fishing that people are very secretive, don't like to share their information. Yeah, I forget that when I'm working in tech. So yeah, from my perspective, it's essential that the ecosystem continues to develop in a way that's open and collaborative, and we can all work together to achieve something that's the sum is bigger than the parts.
Nice set. Okay, and then if we then kind of take another kind of step to the side and look at this again from a different point of view. So there's the ecosystem and there's the maturity that it has today, and just you talked about a lot of collaboration and openness. Maybe you can just expand a little bit further on like the human skills that you need to succeed in IoT today and what it takes really in order, because it's complex, it's got this, it doesn't, you know, there's technical issues, but there's also huge rewards in delivering a real service and a real solution. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about the skills that you need or the core competencies that you need in order to really succeed in IoT today.
Yeah, there is a lot of focus on the technical skills, whereas I definitely, when we're doing hiring here, place an emphasis on soft skills, how people interact and communicate with one another, and process for how developers arrive at a solution. We always ask people to do a task when we're interviewing, so it's less about the solution they come up with, but more about how they tackle the problem. So quite often in Internet of Things, I see engineers just jump straight to a solution before they really even understand the problem they're trying to solve. So I always like to try and step back and start with the vision. Why are we doing this? Where do we want this to get? And then break that down into strategic goals. What specific actions do we need to take to make this happen? And then I align those high-level vision goals with tasks at a yearly, monthly, weekly, daily level. So every day when I look at the actions I'm going to do, I make sure that it flows up. And I'm focusing on the right activities to get to where I want to end up. So yeah, that's the way I approach it. The plan often changes along the way. I think it's supposed to.
I think it's
they say a
process of writing a plan that's important. Yes.
Yeah, having a plan is more important than sticking to the plan. But yeah, I think if you end up building the exact thing that you set out to, you're probably not being receptive enough to feedback. It's easy for developers to get bogged down in the details. So yeah, I like to keep a high level view, and I'm always asking, hang on a sec, do we really need this? Is this activity actually getting us closer to achieving the vision? And I think that approach is important for IoT engineers and developers.
Okay, and then if I ask another question, again, kind of maybe going back to kind of your brush technology kind of perspective, you know, there you're an IoT consultancy, which means that you're making solutions for other people.
That's right.
When you're doing that, so you must have people who are coming to you that maybe don't use IoT at the moment and are using something for the first time, or they think, okay, I want to do some digital transformation, or I need some new data in order to make some better decisions. What advice do you have for those people who are embarking on an IoT journey for the first time, an IoT project? How do you, what advice would you have for them to maximize the value of that project?
Yeah, great question. So usually when a client comes to us and tells us what it is they want, they're telling us a solution. And usually the solution they think they want is not actually what they need. So it'd be very easy to just listen to their requests and give them what they're asking for, but we almost always find that what they're asking for is not solving the root cause of the problem. So yeah, we always encourage getting out of the office, going and having a look. I recently took the team for a site visit out to a helicopter engineer's workshop, and we were blown away that they all had an iPad on their tool bench. We weren't expecting to see that there, and here we were about to develop a tool that wouldn't have been right. One of the most successful projects we delivered earlier this year, we didn't deliver any technology. We actually realized that we could get a solution out in the field and a proof of concept tested, and customers using it without putting any tech on it. It was just a manual solution, temporary. We added tech after we'd proven the concept. But yeah, I would encourage people who are embarking on the IoT journey for the first time. I think part of that journey is realizing that what you're setting out to do may not be where you end up. And making those pivots along the way, listening to the feedback and not being afraid to change course.
Great, thank you. And then let me ask kind of then one final question again from a kind of pivot again, try and look big again. No, so you're really interesting kind of perspective here, because if you've got a completely different background coming into this. You've come into IoT, you're both a consultant that offers solutions to other people, but also the COO of a company that's delivering solutions. So I'm going to ask you, for you as Matt, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, and my take may be a little different. But for me, success is that feeling of accomplishing something meaningful, resolving a worthwhile problem. The philosopher Carl Jung talked about going out, finding the dragon and dealing to it. It's the oldest story that we know. I do that by breaking down the problems into the smallest chunks that are achievable, and then just systematically eating the elephant, so to speak. For me, I prioritize delivery over perfection. I think perfection is the enemy. And yeah, there's a saying, if you're not embarrassed by your first release, you've probably left it too late, which I've definitely had some embarrassing moments. But I think getting the product out the door, getting people using it, getting their feedback and making it better is better than chipping away. You don't have to deliver the perfect solution all in one big bang. Just get something working, get an LED blinking first, move on to the next thing. Just always have something that works and just add one thing at a time. And yeah, eventually you get there, and that feeling of success is worth it.
Nice.